Welcome back to another video, and this is supposed to be a Mixed Media Tuesday, although I'm posting it on a Wednesday. And that's because I wanted to use the latest Stamperia collection, which is releasing today. So that's where I got my whole inspiration. This is called Timeless. It is a wedding themed collection, although I won't be going for a wedding themed art journal today. And you can get some idea as I'm browsing through the pattern paper on how that collection looks in lovely blues and browns. And I'm going with my go-to techniques today. I will start with rice paper, and I do have the small rice paper pack here from that collection. I will be choosing 2 rice papers, and as I always do, I'm going to use my scissors and cut out rectangles. I'm not measuring anything, and notice that I chose 2 contrasting colors. I didn't go with 2 blue pattern papers so that I can mix and match and I can create a kind of a patchwork look on my background. Now, when I do this technique for the background, I always get comments on what can I do if I don't have rice paper. Well, obviously you can do exactly the same thing with your background pattern papers. Just use paper and stick them down to create a little kind of a patchwork. Now, this is a great way to break that blank page. So even though you don't know what you want to create on top, what you want to use as your focal point, you can start and have fun with your pattern papers. Now I'm going to stick everything down using my rice paper glue, and I use the same glue to cover up the rice paper as well to seal it down. Now I do have supply lists for you, and I made the effort lately to link to different parts of the world. So if you go to the description, you will find a shop in Europe where you can shop, and there is a discount code of 10% even for the new collection that you can find there. You will find the coupon code in the description. There is also a shop in the UK where you can find everything from Stamperia. And also there are the usual shops that I always link for the US customers. So I'm trying to help you out here because I get a lot of questions on where you can find Stamperia products. Just check the description, everything is there for you. Now, after sealing down the rice paper, I did use my heat gun to make sure that everything is completely dry, and I'm moving on to the next step. Usually for this step I apply a little bit of white acrylic paint with my spatula. However, for this page today I'm adding acrylic paint that is light blue. I am going to make sure that this step is also dry, but before that, since I do have that acrylic paint on my glass mat, I'm going to add some splatters as well. Next step, and I'm going to do some stamping. For that I'm using the stamp set from the same collection, but I will only use the text pattern. I always like to do a little bit of stamping on the background. It kind of gives some extra depth, and at the same time it adds some visual texture. I am using my permanent ink just to make sure that this is going to stay put without smearing or smudging, no matter what I do on top of it. And you can definitely go for a softer result. You can definitely use another color of permanent ink instead of black. Like for example a dark blue or a brown would match perfectly what the vibe that I'm going for. For the next step, I'm going to use a stencil. Again, this is a stencil from this collection, and this is one that I will be using a lot. I absolutely love that design. And for that I'm going with my trusted volume paste over it in different areas, completely randomly. At this point I have no idea what I'm going to use on top. I'm just having fun layer after layer. Now on this step you can definitely use different colors of pastes, or you can even use your embossing ink pad and your embossing powders. I'm going to leave that aside to dry, and let's start choosing our focal points. Now there are many different ways that you can add a focal point on a page. You can definitely draw one if you like. You can use your pattern papers and fuzzy cut elements. You can use the ephemera or the die cut packs. I like to go lately with the cutout papers. These are designs that you just pop out. They have no white border all around and you can easily mix and match them. So that's what I'm going for today. I'm trying to choose my favorites and I decided to go with a hot air balloon, which I'm trying here to decide which size I want to go with. I decided to go with a larger one and I'm going to embellish it with flowers. So I'm going to pop a few of the flowers here. There are many combinations of flower arrangements here that you can use with browns. I decided to go with flowers that give you mainly blues and whites. And I'm also going to pop out even more elements so that I can audition and decide what looks nice. I'm also going to pop out my quote that I will use on the finished page. And then it's a time to do the auditioning. You can just play around, decide where everything is going to go, and then commit and stick them down. But before I stick everything down, I always like to ink up the edges. Although these pop-out cutouts don't give you any white border all around, I don't like to see the white edge, so that I just go with my blending tool all over. And this is going to help all the elements pop against each other when I stick them down as well. Now, if you want to add at this step some extra dimension, some extra texture, you can use fabric or cheesecloth like I'm doing here and just add it at the back in random areas. Now, for me, this is going to resemble the clouds. Let's say these are clouds. So I'm going to stick them in different parts of the page, just at the back. Notice that just because they are so thin and it's white, it doesn't make the page look busy. However, it adds that extra something on the page to make it look more special, especially when you look at it in real life. Through the camera it doesn't show that much, but you will see that close-up look on the finished photos. So I am going to stick them down. I'm just using the craft glue here, and then it is time to put everything down. Now notice that since I'm using my craft glue, just some white glue, liquid glue at the back, I'm making sure that I don't add glue all the way to the edges. This is going to give me the opportunity to tuck things underneath on the side if I decide to do so. And that is something that happens a lot when I put together pages, especially when I haven't planned anything. This is one of my go-to methods, my 7-step method of art journaling, when I don't want to spend too much time thinking or trying to decide what I am going to do. And I think that it works really easily for everyone every time. So no matter how many times you keep repeating the same steps, every time you get something different. And I absolutely love it. It is really stress-free method when you want to do some art journaling. Now you see here I'm just trying to add the sentiment, the quote, which is step number 6. And you can just go ahead and stick it down, or you can create a little bit of a cluster around that quote. That's what I'm going for now. I'm using this ribbon, again from the same collection. I'm just going to cut out what I need and I'm going to transfer it in this area. Now, one thing that you need to keep in mind to make sure that the ribbons are going to work great for you with no issues is to make sure that what you have underneath is completely dry. Now here I am having a little bit of an issue just because my volume paste wasn't dry yet. But that's not a problem after all. This is supposed to be something that looks organic and not perfect, so it's not an issue really. Anyway, just make sure that everything underneath is completely dry for that ribbon to work perfectly for you. Now, since I do have all the products from this collection, I want to bring in even more. This way you are able to see them in action and decide if something is for you. So here I'm trying to find elements that can work as the elements for the cluster of my quote. I decided to go with a little bit of an envelope as well as this clock. I'm going to just, no, it's not an envelope, it's a little postal stamp. And I'm just creating a little cluster there so that it is going to elevate somehow my quote. I'm also going to repeat the same idea of the cheesecloth cloud to add some extra dimension. And let's put everything together. I'm going to stick that down with my craft glue, and then on top I'm going to add my quote. Now at this stage my page is pretty much ready. I have put together everything. What I need to do is the finishing touches. And you can do all of them or none of them. So one way that you can bring everything together is to do a little bit of stamping on top of the elements that you have stuck down. Don't overdo it. This gives the same detail on the foreground as well as the background. It kind of creates a coherent look. Another little finishing touch that you can do is to use a very thin black marker and outline some of the elements, very sketchy lines here and there. You can repeat the same process of doodling with a white gel pen if you like to add some highlights here and there as well. You can use gems or pearls to embellish your project. Here I'm using my contour liner to add some golden dots at the center of the flowers. And the final touch that I always like to do is to add some white splatters. Again, remember there are no rules to art journaling. You don't have to use the steps the way that I'm showing them to you. I'm just showing you what works for me and just try to put together steps that make the process easy for beginners. So here I'm just using white calligraphy ink. You can do that step with diluted acrylic paint, your gesso, whatever works. And here are some close-up photos on the finished project. Don't forget, everything you need is linked down below in the description. I hope that you had fun, that you got inspired, and I'll see you all next time.